got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, there got rose in my cup though. Started climbing my post, got me locked in on cup though.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL. It's Wednesday night. It's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin still lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
One. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to PSGL for the PC F2 Championship here tonight for round 5 at Austria. And alongside me tonight, I've got Jess Bull, who hasn't been here since season 30. So, Jess, for the first time in 4 seasons, welcome back to PCF2.
Hey Richie, how are you doing? I'm doing not too bad actually. You probably used to see me on PSF1, but we thought, you know what? I kind of jokingly told Connor that I couldn't help you tonight because I didn't have the game, but we put some things in the works and I somehow got the game and I downloaded it within a few hours this morning and here I am, looking forward to it. I know quite a lot of the drivers actually, so it's going back to some nice memories I've had over at PSG over the years. So yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, we got a very stat lobby as always, and we started a little bit late actually, so we're gonna have to get into quality very soon. But the lobby is always really stacked. We got pretty much everyone here who's full time, a few reserves in as normal, but nothing too major. And we'll have a little look at the standings quickly before we get in towards qualifying. So, Mirko Soriano does lead the championship 4 points ahead of Jack West. If he was there last week, Jack spun it on the line at Qatar. He went out of the final corner, his wheel disconnected, so he ended up spinning, finishing P8, when he should have finished third, which I think would have still put him ahead in the championship. So he's now 4 points back. Duncan Hoffland took his first win in this season at Qatar on 31 points. He isn't here tonight due to going on holiday, so he's going to have a bit of a disadvantage going into the second half of the season. Tomasz Gal as well, another driver who had a very poor start but has really moved himself up in the standings, got a podium last time out in Qatar and he's still looking to hopefully try and charge for that championship. But looking through the standings, Jess, is there anyone you think might be a bit out of place of what we would normally expect to see?
Well, I have to say, obviously, the likes of Legend, I was expecting him to be up there near the top because obviously his performances in the midway of last season. Yost as well, only in 9th position. He's obviously done well in many F2 seasons I've seen in the past as well. And good to see the likes of Joseph Loke up there near the front. Andre Tarabukin as well. He climbs up quite nicely as well. But I don't know what's happened to Janik Inchi these days. Obviously, he's a reserve now, but I was expecting him to score some more points this season as well. Quite a few drivers I was expecting to get a few more points. But yeah, I think it's going to be a quite close finish. And with obviously Duncan Hoffman not here tonight, that's given some good taste of what the race is going to be like without him. But with Mirko leading, I think it's going to be very tasty, to say the least.
It will, and well, we're into qualifying, and it is wet. It looks like it's inters, and from what I can see, the sky doesn't look too dark. The rain's only very light, so maybe we see a bit of a wet to dry session. Currently, we've got people out on the soft tyres. We'll have a little look at what tyres everyone's on, but I believe they're all on the softs as you have a look. There we are. So everyone on the soft, apart from a couple of people set to winter. So either it's going to dry out near the end or it's going to get wet. If it gets wetter, obviously you want to get your first lap time in now and get, you know, that first initial lap time on to put yourself ahead of everyone. But if it goes drier, you could even want to risk not going out now and just leaving that banker, but it would be a bit of a risk. So we'll just see what drivers choose to do, and you can see pretty much half the grid on outlaps. And Xander Van Dyke has still got himself set onto intermediate, so maybe he's going to give us an indication that it could be getting a little bit more wet as the session goes on. But Jack West, Jess, you should know very well, is coming through the final set to begin his first final lap, and he's currently second in the championship, so needs a very good qualifying race here tonight.
Yeah, we'll see if he's actually going to crawl through the line or if he's going to do a really good lap, I have to say. It's quite slippery, so I wonder why he's on the soft tyres, but he's heading towards turn 1 now, and you can see that he was very tentative on the throttle going up here, past the MotoGP chicane, which is added on this game, and past the kink of turn 2, heading towards the braking zone of turn 3, move to the outside a little bit on the right, getting a bit squirmy on exit, but he doesn't seem to be too bad compared to some other people as well, so I think that might be one of the best of the conditions. Heading towards turn number 4 now, where we saw the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Albon come together, Perez and George Russell came together. There's always a certain thing between Red Bulls and Mercedes around this track. Past turn 5 and 6 as well, through 5th gear on entry. Now you're going to be heading towards turn 7 past the gravel trap as well. Heading towards one of the Max Verstappen grandstands, going down the bridge, the pit lane. The drivers have got to keep an eye on tonight because it's so close to the racing line. And the stewards, Jack West struggled a little bit there. It was almost an invalidation heading towards turn 9 and 10 throughout this 4-kilometre circuit. Jack comes up to the line, and it's a 108.997. So I thought it was going to be quite a rubbish lap due to the conditions, but safely saying that they are mastering right now as Flores Fries goes even quicker.
Yeah, Flores taking that provisional pole quite early on, hasn't had the best season at all. He struggled with the race pace heavily. He said that to me a couple of times. He said it, and I believe on one of the interviews as well he's had, that race pace isn't really a strong suit. So he's been doing well in qualifying. He's had a couple of top 2 starts, but has never really made anything work in the race, which is a big shame considering he's one you should really be looking at, considering he's one of the only drivers I think in this grid that is an ex-esports driver. If you didn't know, Flores drove for Haas, I believe, in 2019 to 2020, so he's had his experience at the top. But so far, it doesn't seem like that experience is really paying off at the start of this season, which is a big shame. We're only 5 rounds in of, I believe, 11 or 12 rounds, so he's got more time to bring it back. But as time gets on, there's less time he can use to make that gap back up to the top, as Tamás Gal pops himself up into the top 2, and Legend Rosenberg in the top 4, who another driver who hasn't had the best start, which you would have expected considering last season he was a really quick driver right at the top of the championship in at many points, and this season hasn't done the best as Jack West takes pole by 0.4 of a second, and Martins into the top 2. So Jess, these lap times are going to start flying down, aren't they, as we get through this session?
Yeah, so when you saw Sander Van Dyken, who was on the mediums, the intermediate tyres, only going a few seconds slower than Jack West. So maybe the inters are not feeling too bad. It's just really on driver preference. And for people on these softs, if it's going to rain in the race, why not use the softs for a few laps to get the tyres up to temperature, or they may not be using it for the race at all. So they just want to get some life out of those soft compounded tyres. But facts about the track: first used in the 1970s, and it was originally called the Austria ring. It was around about a 6-kilometre circuit. A lot of high-speed corners, a lot of elevation changes back then, and there was one driver that lost his life back in 1975, which meant there was a chicane got added for the slow speed to make slow speed on the fastest section of the circuit. And then there was more crashes, so they changed to another layout in 1997 when it was the A1 ring, which is when I first knew it as, and that's when Mika Hakkinen did quite well. It was around about 1997 to 2003, and then back then it didn't host a race at all after that, and it went back on the calendar in 2014 to the 4.3-kilometre circuit that we know and love, the Red Bull Ring, and a track that Max Verstappen does very well. Our championship leader, by the way, heading towards turns 9 and 10 now in that Ferrari. Looking pretty decent, but not quite matching Jack West's pace, only in 6th. And then we got Tima Zelenkovic. I can't even pronounce names. I do apologise. He goes faster with a 108.1.
Yeah, very nice that's on there from Tima, back up onto that provisional pole spot. Russian Jacobs also in the top 3 as Simon Lekomsky is coming down into that final sector. His teammate let off his lap recently, so obviously Camel didn't get the best lap in that he would have wanted. As his teammate comes through, and we'll see what Lekomsky can do. Always good in qualifying. Can he take provisional pole? No, he can't, but he can take the provisional front row. And let us know in the chat, everyone, with these changeable conditions, who do you think could get pole? Because normally you'd have a couple of names in mind, but with the way the track's changing, anyone on this grid with the best lap time, with the perfect conditions, can make it work. So make sure to let us know down in the chat who you think will take pole position here tonight. There's 19 out of 20 drivers, so there's a lot of drivers that can take pole, but it can only be one of them, of course. So Max Viso, another very quick, talented driver in this grid. He's heading down in towards turn 4 currently. One of the 4 drivers who haven't set a lap time, along with Joseph Loke, Kamil Sahara, and Andrei Tarabukin, as he comes out of turn 4 now, through in towards turn 6 and 7 into the double left-handers. We'll see what he can do in this middle setup. As we head through those, teammate Flores is in P11. Remember, that was P1 at one point. That shows how much the track is ramping up as Max goes quickest in that second sector as he heads down now. Full throttle in towards the final couple of corners at turns 9 and 10. You want to lift off a little bit into here, a little bit more than you would normally. Down to 5th for Max, and he shifts back down to 15 towards turn 10. Rides the curb on the exit, back on the power up to the line. What will it be for the Mercedes? It's P5 there for Max Diesel with a 108.614. That's 4/10 off a teamer's lap. Pole is about 1.5 off a teamer's lap. So that just shows how much pace Zelenkovic had on that run.
Yes, and I'm quite surprised to see Max Riesel lower down in the championship because, again, he was another driver last season, or the season before, that he was up there with the top guys and scoring consistently high in the championship. So he is struggling a little bit, but maybe Austria is a track where he can get close to the top guys. And it's usually known as a track also where it's the closest qualifying on the calendar, but the gap's maybe, I think, a bit bigger in terms of qualifying now because obviously it's changeable conditions. And we did have these type of conditions back in the real life Austrian weekend as well. We thought we weren't going to have a race as Max Wiesel goes purple in the middle sector on my end as he heads towards turn 7 and 8. So maybe he's found a bit more pace in that car as everyone else has gone into the pits currently. So we'll see what he could do towards turn 9 and 10. No, he's cut into the pit lane. I don't think he meant to do that, cut in the pit lane like that, but he's done that anyway. So he's going to go and do one more lap just a little bit later on. Joseph Loke is out on the lap as well. I believe we'll see if he's backed off. No, but he hasn't. He's just gone past turn 4.
Yeah, well, we know from what we saw in WR, Joseph is a great driver in the wet conditions. He always performs well. I think in that race at Belgium, he was 7/10 ahead of the whole field in qualifying. He's great when it comes to wet conditions. So we'll see what he can do in these very treacherous conditions. You can see it's quite wet, but not wet enough for him to see. You're still going to type those softer compounds tyres out, which we know can struggle a lot. Slick tyres really struggle in the wet. So we'll see what he can do as he comes through into the final corner. In the Haas, coming to the line, as we know, he's a reserve, so he's in different cars every time. This time, he's at the wheel of a Haas, and he only goes 13th with a 108.857. As we look down, I don't know if anyone else is on a lap. Matthew Alder's not. Ben Sabakonya, he might be, as he heads down in towards turns 9 and 10. We'll go on board in quickly as he heads down in towards his final sector into 6th gear, then down to 5th on the exit of turn, into the entry of turn 10 on the exit. Back on the power up to the line. What will it be for Benz? Is it top 5? It is top 5. With a 108.574. We've got many people on lap still. We've got Xander Van Dyken up in the middle. We've got Tomasz Gal, who I believe has just set a lap. He put himself into P7. Matthew Alder is also on a lap. He's currently on a 109.2, so about it's 1.1 seconds back off of the pole position time. We know Jess Matthew he was in F1, wasn't he, in PS Championship?
Yes, he's won quite a few championships. Matthew Alder, he was known as Blizzard back in the day, but now he's known as Matthew Alder. Been on the PS side for quite a bit. I know a lot that came from the PS side. Xander Van Dyken was PSF2 champion. I can't remember what season it was. I think maybe season 29. Max Wiesel was in PS for a little bit as well. Mirko Siriano is our championship leader. Tycho Hardy, who won it a few seasons ago. Legend. There's quite a lot that I know, and obviously we have a few Xbox drivers as well, so it shows that PC is definitely the platform to be on. As Thomas Gow, I believe, is on a lap currently as he heads towards the final corner. He's got a 108.196 to beat from Timo right in front. Let's see what he can do. Up to the line he goes. Oh, not too bad from him at P4, a few hundredths slower than Simon in 3rd position. I think we've got a few Mercedes drivers going about to start their laps very soon as well. No, it's Flores Fires going into the pits, as I believe. Was it Jack West? Yeah, Jack West just crossed the line in 6th position. So he started on provisional pole. He's down to 6th place.
Yeah, and still no one able to touch the lap time of Timo Zelenkovic, who was set at the start of the session. So either that proves that the track hasn't really ramped up much, or that Timo just set a great lap as Kamil Sasha, one of the 2 drivers that haven't set a lap time, is heading down in towards this final section. He's not on lap this one because he's let off completely. So Camille, along with Andre, not having the best of sessions so far. We've got about, I believe, 7 or 8 minutes left in this session. So hopefully for them, the dry conditions, are a little more prevalent in the session. Hopefully in the end we can get a bit more dry running. As we're heading now with Camille to the line, he's going to be beginning a lap. He's on a 1:19 as Similar Komsky goes up to the top with a 1:08.144. So now it seems that the track is starting to ramp up as we now getting that pole position time beaten by Similar Komsky as Mirko Soriano's in the top 4, obviously championship leader ahead of championship protagonist Jack Quest, who's then in P7, so only 3 positions between the two, but still between 3 positions there's a lot of points that you can lose out on.
Yes, and I wonder if it's starting to get less damp currently, or maybe with it 6 minutes left to go, track evolution always plays a part. There's always a bit of grip that gets ironed out as well. You can see turn 4 is getting a little bit drier as well, but it's still raining, so that's probably why. And it's a track also where it requires much lower downforce compared to tracks like Qatar, where we were last week, where it requires about 50 rings on the front wing, as Timo has decided, you know what, I've had pole, you're not going to get pole away from me, as he goes fast as well, 1:08.101, and the top 5 are separated by minuscule amounts. There's Rishan Jacobs, who recently moved to Parnell Racing, I believe, a very good signing, shows why he deserves to be in Parnell Racing, and slots himself into 5th.
Yeah, and also Max Wiesel, Rishan's old teammate in Tier 10, he's in P3 with a 1:08.239. Yoda Martins went purple in the first sector. We'll see what he can do in this final sector as he heads down in towards turns 9 and 10. Currently running this about 5th and 6th gear through that whole section, and on the exit back on the power. Up to the line, can he try and take a top 5? He'll take a top 10 with a 1:08.415. Jack West does improve, but only by a 10th to put himself into P7. Daniel Kaya's coming through the final few corners. We'll see if he can improve on his previous lap time. Currently down in 12th on a 1:08.578, about 6 tenths off pole. We'll see what he can do. Can he improve? He pops himself into. He doesn't improve. He's down. So that's a big shame there for Daniel. Tiger has a massive side out of turn 1. Legend Rosenberg into the top 11. Josie Floker 10th up in the first set. We'll see. Can he improve in the second set? Currently down in P17, which is not where we expect to see Josie Floke at all. So we'll see. Is he up in the middle? He's up by 4 tenths. Currently good enough to put him into around that top 10 position, around Yannick Schmidt, down towards Legend Rosenberg in the pack, because he's still got a final set, so still has got time to gain on his lap. And Jess, Joseph, we should expect to see him in the top 5, surely.
Yes, because he's up there near the championship, so he was struggling a little bit, but he seems to be a little bit more hooked than others, and he's more hooked, definitely. He goes into P2. Andre Chalabrukin is about to cross the final corner as well, and doesn't improve by much, 1:09.096. I like being on PC, by the way, because I can use the keyboard a bit more to let drivers. On PS, I have to use my control and scroll down everyone. It's very annoying, but at least I can actually select a number and select a driver very easily. So that makes life a lot easier tonight anyway, as I think we're about to approach the end of qualifying now. 3 minutes and 36 seconds on the clock. Not a lot time for people to get out on circuit, as Sander van Dijken, I think the only man out on circuit, he's going to be out of sync for everybody else, but he thinks that with him having less traffic around him, it's not going to cause that much issues. But he's going to encounter people on his outlaps as well, so I'm a bit worried about him, but maybe there is methods to his madness.
Yeah, maybe his hope is that he has a chance of doing 2 laps. So just say he can use 1 lap to warm up his tyres and then go for a full lap. Or maybe, if he knows he could make a mistake on the first lap, he's got the chance to go again as he comes down in towards turn 6 and 7. We've got people headed out the pits. The only issue he's got is traffic, because there's a lot of people coming out. He's coming round in towards the end of that middle sector. He could get caught up quite heavily. Tygo Hardy, I believe, will be heading back into the pit lane, or unless he wants to set another lap time. But he did improve on the previous one, so I don't think he's got enough tyre life to really make anything out of it on a second run, as the rain hasn't really stopped. It's kind of stayed where it is. It'll die off, it'll come back a little bit, then it'll die off again. So, yeah.
It's less damp than it was.
It is, yeah. It's a weird condition, isn't it, on the track? You can't really decide what... The weather doesn't really decide what it wants to do. It's just like, oh, well. We'll rain, we'll slow down, we'll make the track dry, then we'll make the track wet. As you can see down the start-finish straight, there's lots of dry patches, but the issue is on the final corner, you know, in the high-speed corners, there's a lot of water, which is not a good thing at all for these soft tyres. As we know, the slicks, they can just spin a lot easily out on these tyres, and with traction, if you don't get good traction, you're going to lose a lot of time.
Yes, and I think the sector 1, turn 2 and 3 is completely dry. And the way Xander Van Dyken took it was a lot better than he did when it was wet. So it looks like if you're out on circuit now, you've got to be the last person who's out on a lap. So I think it's one of the Aston Martins. It might be Jack West or Matthew Older. No, it's Jack West, who will be one of the last to set a lap anyway as Matthew Older comes out of the pits. But Xander Van Dyken, the first person to see those conditions then. We're not going to have a true idea as to whether it's going to be good enough for pole until the last driver comes out on the track and sets a lap time. But it's definitely looked promising. We've got to be wary about track limits now because they're pushing their car to the limit through 9 and 10. So Xander, the benchmark time, 106.0. Yeah, track is definitely dry. They can definitely go quicker than that, but we'll see who's going to be on provisional pole. It's crunch time. Let us know in the chat.
It is, and now, with the 2-second gap to P1 and P2, that is evident that the rain has, well, as you can see on the screen, the rain has stopped completely. So now, it seems like people they're slowing down to go again. I've noticed Jonas let off his lap, Rishan did the same, Mirko let off. So maybe people are letting off just for one extra lap so they can get the best conditions at the end of the session, which isn't that far away. And I've got to mute Discord because, yet again, I've got people notifying me so that it comes through the stream, which is quite annoying.
Yes, I've had that at times, and it can get quite frustrating, especially when you install a new PC, which is a bit frustrating. But
traffic.
Yeah, that traffic in the final sector. Bloody hell, I shouldn't have said that, but there is a lot of cars. It reminds me of Monza. Please move out the way, because otherwise there's going to be some bad gentleman's agreement going on. Rishan J. Oh, no. He was on a lap as well, and he's going to get held up by one of the Ferraris. He's going to get a tow as well. And he wasn't on a push lap anyway. But that's not going to help him at all. And he's just crossed the line as well to finish his lap. So we're about to get into the dying stage of qualifying. Thomas Gal goes fast, 105.1. And then we got the AlphaTauri of, no, it's not Statra. He's in 19. But it's Simon who's up to the line next to cross it. We'll do his lap time. I think the lap time's going to get quicker and quicker. So, yes, it is 104.981. I'll let you take the end.
Thank you, Jess, as we come through Yannick Schmidt to try and take pole position. He's coming through the final corner, and at this point, anyone will be looking to challenge for pole. Yannick Schmidt to the line, takes pole with a 104.8. You're just trying to catch up with everyone as Daniel Carr goes into P2. Joseph Float's coming through as well. That was Max Wiesel onto pole by 0.2 of a second. Timmy Mazelinkiewicz on the provisional front row. Legend Rosenberg now on the provisional front row. And that is, I think, Ben Sabakoni into the top 5. As we come through, a few more cars to come through. Yana into P6, Matthew into P8. Josie Float takes pole by 0.2 of a second. And, well, by the time we could see you cross the line, the session ended. So Mirko Soriano, the championship leader, by the looks of it, is on pole position. And, well, I saw Josie's time, then about 3 people cross the line together, and I didn't see the ending, but there we are. So, the top 5. Mirko Soriano starts on pole. Josie Float alongside then Rishan Jacobs. After so far scoring no points whatsoever, he's starting P3. Max Wiesel in P4, and his teammate, Legend Rosenberg, Jess, who we know hasn't had the best season, is in the top 5. What a session that was. As you can see, they're very close between P4 and P11, with, I think, about 3/10 separate them all.
I think that's what Austria brings for you. And I was expecting the track to ramp up, and it's about who was on the track last. And Mirko Soriano was on the track last, and he had the best of the conditions, and that's what's helped him. Got pole position, but 49 thousandths, that is absolutely nothing. But great to see Rishan Jacobs up there having a much better result this time, and the Talent Factory boys doing a lot better as well. And it's pretty much shaking up the grid currently. And look at that. This is pretty much almost replica conditions than what we saw in F3 earlier.
It is. Well, F3 was a lot wetter, but this is still... Well, it's like what we saw earlier. Do you go dry? Do you go wet? That is, well, Inters, I suppose you should say. That is the choice, and that can cause the strategy in this race to be quite hectic. And Jess, I'll let you take the start, but we're going to make sure we can catch it on time because it catches us off guard a lot because there's no countdown anymore on the screen.
No, that's one of the most annoying things as a commentator.
Yes.
But whilst we wait for the start, make sure you do check out our sponsors, GT Omega. 5% off all GT Omega products. You can use the code PSGL at checkout, and you can click on the link in the description or use the command ! GT Manga, and I had to remember all of that at the top of my head because I usually have my notes with me, but I can't do that because I'm not on my PlayStation. So there we go. Make sure you check out our sponsors, GT Omega, and our championship leader is going to be starting on the best side of the grid. I think it's going to be some wet tyres here today. I think we're going to be in for a classic race. I wonder if it's going to get dry at the end. I don't know, but we will see. And I can understand why people went on 2 or 3 laps of softs now, because they think it's going to be dry. No, not dry at the end.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to see if I can see people's tyres. I can't tell if they're wet or dry. It looks like Joseph's on dries, but then when I look at the McLarens, it looks like they're on inters, but it's very hard to tell between the pixels, so I don't know, in all honesty. It's just trying to guess and try and pick away what you can. And yeah, we're having a long wait, so let's hope there's no issues. We're going to have a little look in the Discord quickly to check that no one's got an issue, because it's normally something we find with this game. And I don't think
we
there's a restart.
We didn't have blocking this time.
Which is a surprise. That's a first in this series.
Yeah, because it always tends to be a PC thing. We've had it once on the PS side, but anyway, we're about to get going. The 5 red lights are on. Soriano's on par with Joseph Loke alongside for the Austrian Grand Prix, and we are underway for PCF2. Soriano's got a great start, so does Joseph Loke, but Max Wiesel trying to go around the long way around into turn number 1. It can be very, very chaotic throughout these drivers, but I think we've seen quite a few people running right, and quite surprisingly, in these wet conditions, it seems to be A-OK as Mirko Soriano absolutely pulling away carnies. We've got Tima in the Alpine trying to go side by side with the McLaren. We've got a McLaren side by side with a Mercedes. We've got 3 wide with a Alfa Romeo. I think that was Tyker Hardy. Legend Rosenberg is up into 5th place, and he's going to try and get Max Wiesel up down the inside in towards turn number 4. I don't think he's going to do it. Actually, he's going to try and go around the outside, actually, with the Alpine trying to follow in behind him. But so far, it is okay, but we have some massive downers from people near the back. Sander Van Dijken's lost a few places, but he's having a nice battle with Floris Vyers though. But someone's off. That's a Red Bull. That's Thomas.
Yep. Oh, where's he lost that? Then at turn 6, isn't it? I think then at turn 5 and turn 6. Big shame. Looking at the front, we've got Zelenkiewicz on the back of Legend Rosenberg, on the back of Max Wiesel, who hasn't had the best start. He's sitting 5 tenths back already. That's a battle there between Bench Sabakonyi and a couple others. Oh, and that could be close to contact. It is contact between Bench and Daniel, but nothing too harmful as we head out of that final corner, back up towards turn 1. Matthew Alder on the inside of Camel Sasha into turn 1. It looks like he's going for a move there on Daniel, but can't make it work. Oh, they make a bit of contact. Camel keeps ahead now. Jack West into 14th. I'm not sure what's happened there to him, as Lukomski is also adding a little back. He's got a penalty already. Xander Van Dijk is going to go for a move around the outside, possibly in towards that third corner, and you can see them all trying to crate up, and there's a bit of damage. That's someone with the damage. Who's that? I think that might be Matthew Alder, or maybe Jack West. I'm not quite sure, or one of the Mercedes. Everyone's off down at turn 3, and I'm just trying to see what happened then. I'm not too sure, as Sabakonyi's dropped down to 15th, and I'm just trying to spot who's got a bit of end plate missing. I think it might be Stahira, because he's dropped back a few seconds. Jack West is ahead of Daniel Kaya, back up to the front, and there's not really much happening with the top 5, top 8. They're all sticking where they are and just trying to drag themselves through this, through these weather conditions. As Xander Van Dijk up into 11th place, he started down in 18th, so he's had a very nice start there ahead of many of the drivers there. The likes of Benson and Tamash, who both had incidents on that first lap. As someone's heading into the pits, that's Daniel Kaya. He's obviously got some damage of some sort. Yeah, big shame there for the Alfa Romeo. That is not what he would have wanted, is it, Jess?
Nope, it's not. And I was actually finding out what happened in the turn 3 incident. I think there was one car that had a little bit of an off, and it was kind of like a Constantino effect going on behind, and that could have ended a lot worse. Luckily, it didn't, as Joseph Lowe almost trying to go for a move up the inside of Mirko Soriano in towards turn number 3. Couldn't quite do it. He's got plenty of airs to do so as well, about 60%. He's going to try go to the left-hand side to turn 4. Mirko Soriano cuts him off there as well. Oh, a little bit of contact between Joseph Loke and Mirko Soriano in the background too, which could allow Rissan Jacobs to be in the fight as well. Passing towards turn 6. Mirko Soriano doing a great job to make sure Joseph Loke doesn't have a sniff of his P1 position.
Yeah, and well, we know with F123, the great camera angles. I didn't see any of that battle between Mirko and Joseph, unfortunately. I was stuck looking at the front wings, which doesn't help when we're trying to watch a full battle. But there we are, Mirko keeping himself ahead of Joseph, who you can see is very eager to get himself back into that top position. Rishan as well, sitting quite comfortably behind. Rishan has been involved in incidents nearly every race so far. So I think this time he knows he's in a good position. He can sit back a bit. He can relax. He doesn't need to bother pushing and trying to make positions. He can sit where he is, just follow behind Joseph and Mirko, and hopefully for him, get himself a top 3, which he definitely deserves considering he scored no points this season. But Joseph, you can see, eyeing up a move up the inside into turn 3. Mirko's going to go around the outside to try and defend. Can't do so. They make a bit of contact. Mirko goes off the track. Rishan's going to look to get through Mirko. Yes, he does. Mirko, sorry, down to P3. Rishan into P2. As we head down in towards turn 4. And now, do we see Rishan go for a move on Joseph? I don't think he's close enough. No, he's not. So now, it is Joseph Loke in the lead. Rishan Jacobs in second. And Mirko Soriano down to P3. And now, under pressure from Max Wiesel on the outside at turn 5.
Yes, Max Wiesel doing all he can as well, and I think we got one of the Ferraris as well, being under pressure from Mirko Soriano once again. So yeah, he's definitely struggling out there. So I wonder if he might have got a bit of damage, or if he's just struggling on those tyres due to the tyre temperatures on these cars. Because honestly, it's an absolute nightmare on this game, as I found out, in the wet conditions, especially when these drivers are running no assist. So Joseph Loke in the lead, and I'm a bit shocked to see Mirko Soriano lose that much compared to his rivals. And I think Max Wiesel, there's going to be no DRS, so I wonder if he was going to go for the move into turn 1. He's not going to do so. I think Max Wiesel's going to carry Legend Rosenberg with him. And don't forget, of course, we've got Tycho Hardy in this as well, who wants to spoil the party, as we got Max Wiesel trying to go up the inside of Mirko Soriano. Becomes the outside in towards turn number 3, going down the hill towards turn number 4 in that Mercedes. When was the last time we saw Mercedes and Ferrari fight together? We will see as he goes to our right-hand side in towards turn 4, keeping his line together. No room left almost, but it looks like Mirko Soriano closes the door once more. It seems to be where the final sector is where he struggles, Mirko Soriano, because with the middle sector, he seems to be pretty well controlled. So I wonder if he's running a higher downforce setup for the wet.
Well, it was weird because he was keeping himself comfortably ahead of the top 2. Then I had that incident which I was down at turn 3. And then has now lost 6 tenths to the back of Rishan. He's under very, very high pressure from Max and Legend. So maybe he's lost a bit of confidence there in the wet since that incident. He also went deep at turn 3 last time we went down there as well. So it doesn't seem like it's his strong suit so far in this Grand Prix. As we head down in towards turn 1 again, you can see Max just about 3 tenths back. He can use his battery to try and catch up to Mirko. Mirko's got about 50% battery. Max is on around the same amount as now. Rishan's getting very close to the back of Joseph Loke. In the wet, you can take the lead. It doesn't really matter too much. So Rishan could afford to try and take the lead as Mirko, big send, tries to get himself ahead, couldn't do so. Sits right behind as we head down to turn 4. Look at this exit from Rishan, a great exit. He's got the slipstream, he's got the battery to put himself ahead of the Hasbro. I don't think it's enough into turn 4. No, he doesn't really push for it at all, does he, Jesse? He just wants to, it seems so far, even though there's no DRS, just stay behind the driver ahead.
Well, it looks like it, doesn't it? And it's a track where they burn a lot of ERS anyway in the dry, but in the wet, they hardly use any at all. And I wish Rishan Jacobs may be saving it for when he goes into the pits. But bearing in mind, if it stays like this, you don't have to pit in these intermediate conditions. There could be some drivers that could eke it out and stay on those inters to the end of the race. So maybe he wants to save it until then, because otherwise he's going to use up too much, because usually you burn, well, you charge all that ERS sometimes in the pit lane. So I think with the braking zone to turn 3, that's probably where he's gaining that ERS in general anyway, on the laps where he's not pushing that much. But even with a lot of ERS compared to the likes of, obviously, everyone else behind him, he's still doing a decent job. Even Joseph Loke's not even using that much ERS. But look at the speed that Joseph Loke is having on Rishan Jacobs right now into turn 3. So I assume that he wants to keep his tyres under control as we head through into down the bridge in towards turn 4. So yeah, I think they're not pushing too much, keeping it cautious because the race is not over now. They still got plenty of laps still to go in this Grand Prix, and you don't want to end it when you've put a lot of practice into this Grand Prix. As Jack West, oh, that was close from Yannick Smith through turn 4. Oh my.
Yeah, and, well, Jack West is one who needs to get himself some positions, because if the positions stay the same at the end of the race, then Jack will be about 13 points back off Mirko Soriano, which is nearly a clear win ahead in the championship, which is not what Jack wants. He doesn't want Mirko to get any more than about 5 or 6 points ahead. Currently, the gap's about 4 points. So Jack, his challenge, charge through the field, a top 5, a top 6 would do him justice, but also Mirko, because he hasn't had the best pace. So maybe if Mirko drops back even more, there's a possibility we could see Jack West probably get ahead of his championship protagonist in this Grand Prix, which would be very key for Jack's performance. But he's sitting in ninth. He's got a lot of work to do to do so. But another thing is, the rain is starting to slow down. Now that brings strategy back into play. As now we've got Yannick Schwitt trying to get himself back ahead of Jack, but sits back a little bit this time. But yeah, strategy when it comes to play. If it starts to go dry, do you choose medium tyres? Do you choose soft? Do you choose hards? What, just in your position, just say we get halfway through and the rain starts, what would you do? Would you stay out on the inside, or would you try and pick for a medium or hard set of tyres?
Well, it does depend on the crossover period of these tyres, because the softs and the mediums, the crossover period between those two tyres is only about 5 laps, which means the softs don't last long at all. So you want to avoid the softs at all costs, because otherwise you're going to struggle for quite a bit. But in terms of whether you would go for the mediums or the hard compounded tyres, it's really a tough call. I think if you get to about lap 20, maybe the mediums will be the best option, because it's a good operating window for the drivers as well. They won't fall on the edge of a cliff, maybe. But it only takes 12 laps for when people put on the mediums and then people put on the hards at the same time. It only takes 12 laps for the hards to become a better tyre. So ideally, maybe potentially about 12 laps to the end of the race, mediums will probably be more viable, or maybe it's the soft. But again, it does have to depend how they manage their tyres a little bit. As Rishan Jacobs goes for the lead, Nathan.
Yeah, as we head down to turn 4, Rishan there with a great send in towards turn 3. Didn't look like he'd send it, but I think Joseph backed off, so Rishan thought, yeah, we'll just send it in towards turn 4 now, and it is Rishan in the lead. Joseph going to try and go for a switch back, can't do so. Mirko very hot on the tail of Joseph as we went through into turn 4, but still, Rishan keeps the lead. But now Joseph up the inside in towards turn 6, gets himself ahead there off the McLaren to put himself back onto that top position, but Rishan going to fight back in towards turn 8. Can he get it to work? He's going to be close. It's contact nearly as they make it through, and Joseph just about keeps that P1 position as we head down now in towards turns 9 and 10. And still, Joseph Floke putting Rishan under pressure, and he's not going to let Rishan have that position very easily as we head down in towards turn 10. Jack West ahead of Jonah Martins as Jonah's going to go into the pit lane. So that's either a new set of inters or maybe a set of softs. We'll look at the tyres just to see what Jonah does as he heads into the pits. Now, what does he choose to do? Because it doesn't look like it's drying up very quickly, but that possibility is there. And for Jonah, it is a new set of inters. So Jonah is a good one to go when it comes to strategy, because Jonah's obviously the Ferrari engineer, so he's, he knows everything when it comes to strategy. So for now, Jonah's telling us he isn't going to dry up any soon.
Yeah, so I think what Jonah is saying is it's going to be wet for pretty much most of the race, or it's only going to be wet at the end. But usually sometimes, even though he's a Ferrari engineer, sometimes Ferrari strategists get it wrong. But 9 times out of 10, he's the better of the Ferrari engineers. So he does a lot better than the real-life Ferrari strategists, I have to say. Sander Van Dijken gets past Yannick Smit up in into 9th place, like we were saying. He's gained quite a lot of positions in this race, and he's managing his tyres very effectively. But I'm looking at his ERS. He has pushed a lot. Everyone else is comparing to them as about 80, 70%, and Sander Van Dijken is only on 11, 10%. And once you get past 10%, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So Sander Van Dijken looks like he's going to the pits because he committed early, as said in the steward's briefing. Yes, he does. So he's going to come in. And also, I see Mirko Soriano coming into the pit lane. I'm guessing they're going to go for a fresh set of intermediate tyres, because we saw Jonah Martins doing the same thing. They're probably going to be in a party together. Yes, Mirko Soriano comes in on a fresh set of inters, and so does Sander Van Dijken. So they're all going to be doing the same thing. And we're starting to see track limits come into effect. I think we just saw Matthew Alder pick up a 3 seconds. Simon got one earlier, and Yannick Smit got one earlier. I'm surprised not many people got any more, but it's not as much as what we saw in Qatar last week, where most people seem to get penalties galore.
Yeah, well, to me, now I see people pit onto the brand new inters, it's starting to make me think, well, is it going to go dry near the end? Because they took these laps 9 or 10 lap old, these inters. There's 25-ish laps left of the race. There would be no point you pitting now onto a set of inters to take them to the end. It wouldn't work. You'd go halfway through not on lap 10. So that makes me think around maybe lap 25, we see the soft tyres maybe making an appearance, or the mediums, because of the track drying up, because it wouldn't make sense to pit this early on, but everyone's doing it as we come through. Legend stays out, and the top 6 all decide to pit, so that makes me think that it will dry up eventually, but just not yet, and maybe by the time we get to lap 20 or 25, when the rain could stop, maybe those people who stay out on the Inters won't make it work as well, and obviously the drop-off will become a lot heavier, so they'll lose more time and get overtaken. So bold strategy for them going to pit, and it's a bold strategy going for them who's staying out, because we know in the wet, it's very unpredictable. Anything can happen, and you just got to take a gamble and a risk, which is what many people have done. Well, I think now everyone in the top, well, yeah, about 10 or 11 people have pitted. About half of them, 10, haven't pitted. So, yeah, it's an odd strategy for them, but we'll see as we get through if it'll work or not.
I think I remember I was watching one of the feeder series in Silverstone in real life where they suffered the same situation. Oh, should I go on dry? Should I go on wet tyres? Like, they had some options through there as well, and I think they had that issue in the Hungarian Grand Prix too. So I like in this strategy. There's some people that want to stay out, and there's one driver that I'm not surprised for him to stay out and could make it work, was Legend Rosenberg, and he's misproven my theory completely and comes in, because he's usually the one who stays out. I remember commentating on a Brazil race in PSF, I think it was PSF1, where we made those tyres last 36 laps, or it was around USA, I can't remember, and he went on to win the race. So I'm surprised he's come in, to be honest. I don't know how. I'm not a machine, as Legend was a machine back at the time. But yeah, I'm surprised he stayed out, actually. So I'm guessing he wants to have some fresh rubber at the moment, and it strongly suggests that obviously you can't make the tyres last 36 laps like you can on the last game. So I'm a bit shocked, but yeah, he's misproven my theory completely, Legend.
Well, we're battle for the top 3, and it's Rishan Jacobs ahead of Mirko Soriano. These 3 were battling early on. This time, it's Rishan trying to get himself ahead of Mirko. Mirko's got the exit line to turn 4. This could get quite tasty between the two. As we go down, Rishan breaks a little bit later, has the inside line, allows Mirko to try and cut back. A bit of contact. Rishan just about stays ahead there of the Ferraris. Look down that stage in Rosenberg, trying to get himself ahead of Jack West, who's in a provisional P6, P7 position at the moment on his new intermediate tyres. Obviously, if you undercut, you're most likely going to be a little bit quicker because of the tyres not being warmed up when you're on the new ones. Whereas obviously with Jack and Tycho and all them, they've had an extra lap to warm up their tyres. They can push a little bit more as the heat's obviously got into them. As now we have more people in the pits. It's Lukomsky and Tamas Gal. We got Timmy, Yannick and Bentz and Matthew all staying out as everyone else has come back into the pits. So we'll now see how far they drop down. Joseph Loke takes the fastest lap in this race, and you'll see there Tamas and Simon will drop down heavily in this grid. They'll come out, look at that, around pretty much last at this point.
Yes, and what I've noticed on this game, the undercut is around about a second per lap if you have a similar pace, and the longer that you stay out, the less time you lose on this game, because with the tyre warm-up, it doesn't take long to warm the tyres at all, whereas on the last game, the overcut was more powerful. So pretty much if you were stuck in that traffic, which was what Simon was doing, then it was the right decision for him to pit as well. So I'm a bit intrigued to see why the top 4 haven't pitted yet. Maybe they're seeing things that we haven't. As we can see, one of the AlphaTauri's trying to go the long way around past Daniel Koya up into P15, which he does with ease, and he's up into that position for quite a bit. He's now going to catch up to Jonas Martins, who pitted a few laps earlier as well, about a 4-second gap, as Yannick Schmidt comes into the pit. Savaconnier stays out, and Timo stays out as well, who's currently our race leader. And the gap now is 3.8 seconds, but you can start to see the gap close to Joseph Loke now, because he's got the nearest rival, Matthew Older. It's about 3.3 seconds. Yeah, it's coming down rapidly now, I think. If I were the top 3, I have to come in. I know you would lose time, but everyone around you is just going to catch up like crazy.
Yeah, it's an odd one though, because there's about a 10-second gap to Timo. So just say the rain stops in 5 laps. That means as long as Joseph isn't beating Timo by 2 seconds a lap, it can still work out. So it's a difficult one. Timo's just got to be able to push on these tyres. As Tom says in the chat, yeah, he beat me at Brazil by not stopping. So Jess, you brought the memories back for Tom.
Sorry, Tom. I love you, really.
As we come down in towards turn 6 and 7 with Rishan Jacobs, 4 tenths back from Joseph Loke currently. the top 3 is Joseph, Rishon and Mirko, which is what we've seen pretty much out this race. And there's been a few times where it's been a different order, but it has always been those 3 in the top 3. Steven Zamankiewicz now decides to pit. Does Spencer McConaughey? No. Matthew Alder doesn't either. They're going to stay out for an extra lap at least as we head through. And Tima thinks, yeah, it's not going to stop at least yet. We might as well pit and make something work of that. It'll obviously work. It's obviously going to end a lot worse if he has to try and fight people when he's on 15 lap old tyres and they're on 4 and 3 lap old tyres. We know that isn't going to, we know that isn't going to work out well at all for him. And it could end up in a few collisions, which we know isn't very odd. And we know incidents have been quite a hot topic in league racing this season. Last year it was cheating. This year it's incidents and dirty driving. It's always a controversial moment in PSGL.
I think it's with any platform as well. With PlayStation, we haven't got away with that. There was quite a few races where I was like, what was going on? But we've had quite a few good races this season. Guitar being one of them, it was pretty decent. That probably means that Austria on Monday is going to be absolute chaos because usually we have one good race and then one race with incidents. So, yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen on Monday anyway. Look at Haas, who's closing up to, I think it's no, it's not Jack West. It's Matthew Older, Joseph Loke or Matthew Older. Yeah, he's got older tyres, so it's to be expected. And he got past Matthew Older, who comes into the pit lane. So that does leave Sabaconnier in the pits. Well, not in the pits, staying out on 16 laps. And yeah, he's going to fall back to the back of the grid the way this is going right now. He's got 62% battery as well. So he's going to try and use it all just to keep ahead of everyone. But he's going to lose out on so much. I don't know how he's going to do it because it's going to be a fight between Joseph Loke and Richard Jacobs for the lead. If Benze Sabaconnier gets caught up in all of that, it's just going to be all hell break loose. And Joseph and Richard Jacobs are going to get held up. Same with Mirko Suriano as well. So, yeah, I think Benze should have followed Matthew Alder in. And with Matthew Alder staying out for ages, look at where he's down, Richie. He's in P18 right now.
Yeah, he's 2.5 seconds back from Daniel as well. That is not ideal at all. And that just shows the effect of the undercut not working as now. Jonas Martin's been eaten by the grid. Janet Schmidt looking from around the outside into turn 6. He recently got overtaken by Lekomsky and Tamas Skal. So he's now gone down from P12 to P14 within the matter of corners, which shows that Jona might have pitted a little bit too early on these tyres, which isn't ideal. As now we've got Legend Rosenberg trying to get a move on Jack West. He does get himself ahead of Jack West, who's ghosted, so maybe they made a bit of contact into turns 9 and 10. And Jack still phasing ahead as Bench Sabaconnier gets ahead. Joseph gets ahead of Bench Sabaconnier in towards that first corner. As Bench had an incident, yes, he has. He's spun round at the. He's beached the car, hasn't he? It looks like.
Oh yes, he's trying to get through. Nobody hasn't. He gets back, but luckily I think there wasn't hardly any cars around him. Flores gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's not good for Flores there. As Max Wiesel and Tyker Hardy were having a battle somewhere. As Max Wiesel doing very, very well to get ahead of Tyker Hardy for a little bit. Will Tyker Hardy try to go the long way round once again in towards turn number 4? Nope, he doesn't. Those two, I have to say, having a very good race. Max Wiesel lower down than the championship than you would expecting. This is the Max Wiesel that I know and love back in the day on PC and PS, where he is back near the front, fighting for a podium position. He's 1.6 seconds behind Mirko Suriano as well. I'm not used to him being near the back. I'm used to being near in the front, which he is right now. So he's doing a much better job this race, even if he's got less battery. Yellow flag.
Puncture.
Is that Benteg?
He's got a puncture. Oh, no.
Yeah, he's got a on 17 lap pole inters.
Yeah, so that might show now we understand why people are pitting so early. Because of the punctures being such a high chance.
That's why Daniel Koya's come in.
Yeah, that's not ideal at all, is it, for Ben Sabaconnier? Now we've got Tyker Hardy up the inside of Max Wiesel into turn 3. It's the inside line for the Alfa Romeo, the outside line for the Mercedes. They still make a bit of contact out the corner now. Matt's getting a better run down towards turn 4. As we go down, he's not using any arrest. He's just going to hold it behind and hope he can get a bit of a slipstream. No way through there for Max Wiesel, but the issue is he's in a TF sandwich. Tyker and Adriano are good friends. They work together a lot, so Max is in a bit of a sticky situation because these two could definitely work together, and why not? You can't blame them. They're going to try everything they can to get positions as... someone's chasing them during the lobby. Nice
Yeah,
one.
someone's trying to join the lobby. They want to join the fun, Richie. They want to join the fun and want to join in on a 19-car grid, which I have to say, it's pretty decent so far as we head towards the halfway stage of the race, lap 20 of 36. We are pretty much halfway so far as well, so that is good to see. And Max Wiesel, once again, it's not over for him. It's not over. Even though Tiger Hardy's got past him, he's still able to match the pace on him currently on those intermediate tyres, which is around about the same pace. So it will probably come down to the setup on who's quicker. And we also got Legend Rosenberg working there as well. So going in towards turn number 3. So, it's almost a bit of a tag team there between Legend Rosenberg and Max Wiesel in the back in 5th and 6th position. Thomas Gow and Yannick Schmidt also having a battle in the background as well. And then one of the Alpines wants to join in the fun as well as he goes down the inside in towards turn number 4. We don't want an Albon and Lewis Hamilton moment. It's almost going to be like that, but luckily it isn't. Thomas Gow stays in 11th, but Yannick Schmidt trying to hold off for Yannick Schmidt for 12th position. And I think Tima's doing a great job in doing that, but it's very tough as they make their way passing towards turn number 7. And it's a battle for 11th place, and they're still fighting. But bearing in mind, penalties can come into effect later on in this race, so it could be 4th position later on down the line.
Definitely, as we come into lap 21 of 36, so we've got about 15 laps to go. These tyres will not get to the end at all.
No.
They won't make another 15 laps. That will put them on to 25 laps, and they're already being destroyed after 17. So it either drives up when we see dry tyres, or if it doesn't drop, we definitely see another pit stop onto Inters, as that's Max Wiesel yet again trying to fight back to Tiger Hardy into turn 3. Inside line there for the Mercedes, outside line for the Alfa Romeo, I believe went off track a little bit, and now it brings Legend Rosenberg into the battle down towards turn 4, and also Jack West sitting right behind him, P7. As we head down to this 4th corner, is it enough for Tycho to defend? Yes, it is. He can't get through. Legend can't on Tycho. As we head through turn 4 and 5, Jack West also starting to close in. Would be nice for him if he could get himself ahead of these 3 and put himself into the top 4. As you can see now, Josie Floke has got a 2.1 second lead, so he's putting some pace down, and Richard and Mirko cannot catch up at all. So Joseph is looking at the moment to try and take himself a very nice victory, but with 15 laps to go, anything can happen.
As Murray Walker would like to say, I always like saying that phrase as well, so it's nice that we have the same phrases anyway. I believe he's won a race this season, hasn't he? Was it Bahrain? Yeah, it was Bahrain, round number 2. Hasn't won since then. Surely he wants to win another one. We've had 4 winners from 4 races as well, so he's looking to be the first driver to score 2 wins in this season, which hasn't been done in this tier before this season. So I think if he can do it, he's going to be on another level. And he's probably used to the way anyway, because he raced in real life racing as well. So he's used to the way he handles the car a bit more, which comes to his advantage here as well. As the Alpines, they're in 9th and 10th at the moment, and they're going to score the final point. So PSGL, well, it's 16 points for a win, and it's 1 point for 10th spot. So it is quite close no matter where you go. And look at Jack West on the back of Legend Rosenberger. He is Rosenberg. Oh, it's one of those days. It's been a long day. Why did I say Rosenberger? I don't know. Sorry, Legend. It's gonna kill me.
Well, at least you're getting yourself a bit of notice. As we head
true.
down. Oh, and that is, I think, Jack West going to pit. Yeah, it was. It could have been a bit of a heavy lunch, but no, we decided to go into the pits. Onto a new set of Inters. Right, now we're coming to probably the final pit stop. So it's Joseph ahead of Rich and ahead of Mirko. We've got Jack and Max in the pit lane. Unlucky wing damage for John. John? Who's John? Am I stupid, or is there someone in this lobby called John?
He actually, there was random people that keep leaving. Oh, it's Timo and Andrei Tabukin are fighting, the 2 Alpine cars fighting in towards turn number 3, and Timo absolutely takes it from him at this moment. Apologies about the name pronunciations, by the way. Now, we also got Matthew Older trying to go down the inside of Jonah Martins, and he's done it through turn 3. I think he's going to hold his line towards turn number 4. He's got plenty of ERS to manage it as well. I'm surprised, obviously, Jonah Martins may not have gone around the outside yet, but he is going to eke a little bit into his tyres too. Bearing in mind, we saw a punch of 17 laps. So for the top 6, they've got to pit very, very soon. Matthew Old, I think, will probably pit towards the end of the race. I'm not sure we could get to the end, but we'll see as we're seeing more pitters. Rishan is in, Mirko Suriano stays out, Legend stays out, Tycho Hardy is in, Sander van Dijken is in 6th position then. So I think the threat of Plungers is probably thinking, right, I've got to make a 2-stop work, because otherwise I'm going to risk not getting to the end. She would rather lose track position and get a decent amount of points than in P1 or 2 stay out and get a punch and you'll get no points.
Yeah, well, look, this has worked for Max because he got himself ahead of Tycho Hardy, and Jack West has also got himself ahead of Tycho Hardy. So now shows the undercut's working. Rishan's still 2.5 seconds ahead of Max, but it's still Max an extra position higher, close to that top spot. So he's looking in a very comfortable position so far to take an easy P4. Jack West also, you could say he's in at least a top 5, top 6 position at the moment. So for Jack, it's key to get himself ahead of Max and to try and catch up to the back of Rishan. And also, depending when Joseph and Mirko pit, the undercut will obviously be more powerful generally. So we could see those two drop back a little bit further than they would like. For Mirko, it's an issue. For Joseph, he's not because he's 4 seconds ahead. We'll see shortly where Mirko comes out ahead. We've got Legend in the pits. Team is in the pits as well. Tamas Gal has entered into the pit lane. So I'm going to go on board with Rishan because I want to see where he comes out compared to the Ferrari. Because I think from what I can see, it looks like it'll be an easy overtake there for Rishan. As we come out, past the start finish straight, and he's already past Mirko down to turn 1. So that's what's heavily now. Where does Max come out compared to Mirko? Let's have a look. Max comes out behind, but he's got a better speed coming out the corner. Is this possibility for Max to put himself ahead of the Ferrari? I don't think it is. But when he's within 7/10, that means he can apply a lot of pressure onto the back of Mirko Suriano. So could maybe Max be looking for a podium in this race?
It could be, and I'm looking at the times before, obviously, people came into the pits, and Max Wiesel gained a lot more time when he came in 2 laps earlier than Mirko Suriano. It is huge, that undercut. Even though Mirko Suriano got ahead of him, Max Wiesel gained a bit more time. So I think it's going to be crunch time for the Mercedes driver. It's going to be hammer time if you're Lewis Hamilton, and he's wearing a yellow helmet. There we go. So it is hammer time for Max Wiesel to try and get past Mirko Suriano for a potential podium spot as well. Keeping in mind, we've got Joseph Loke as well, who has just come into the pits too. The top 4 have come in, so that just leaves Matthew Waller to come in very soon, but he's going to stay out. I think everyone else should be fine. Maybe Ben Sabaconnier will just about get to the end of this Grand Prix, but we'll see where Joseph Lowe comes out in relation to Rishan Jacobs. As Rishan Jacobs is miles ahead.
He is.
He's miles ahead. It was about 3 seconds between Rishan Jacobs and Joseph Lowe before the pit stops. Joseph Lowe was comfortably in the lead, and he gained about 1 or 2 seconds per lap. It's been 2 laps, so he's gained about 2 seconds, but Joseph Lowe's got the fresher rubber now. So he's going to probably use his pace advantage to get ahead of the Haas. We could see, like we saw last night, a battle for the win between 2 drivers, and one driver that's looking to redeem himself after what has been not the best season for him, but surely he would definitely want to redeem himself after the seasons he's had. He's doing an amazing job. Maybe it's the fact that he's moved to Parnell Racing.
Could be, and I'm sure he'll use that excuse to make Parnell look even better than they already are. As we head down to turn 10, but this isn't good because now we've got Matthew Alder holding Rishan up in towards that final corner. Matthew lets Rishan through. Now, does he have to try and fight back? So I think he will, down towards turn 1. This isn't good for Rishan at all because look at Matthew looking for an overtake into the first corner. We're going to watch Joseph as going through, and he does try and hold it in, Matthew does. Can't get himself ahead, but this is really messing up Rishan's race, and it's really losing him time to Joseph Loke, who's now only about 5/10 back as we head up towards turn 3. Now, could Joseph try and take the lead? He will. Matthew sends it up the inside on Rishan. Joseph sits back. Rishan turns in a bit of a spin there from Matthew Alder. Now it puts Joseph Loke into a prime spot to get himself ahead of the McLaren as we head down to turn 4. Look at this battery usage, the overspeed for Joseph, and he goes for the move. He goes around the outside. Rishan defends to the inside line. Bit of a lock up there from the McLaren, and Joseph will try and fight back. Can't do so. Rishan parks the car perfectly on the exit of the corner, and now Joseph Loke in a prime position to get himself ahead as Matthew Alder will still try and hold up Mirko Suriano.
Look at how much time he's gained already by getting past Matthew Alder. He is a man on a mission who wants to get his second win of the season, and he wants to make sure he can stop Rishan Jacobs from getting it. The amount of traction he has got through the corners is second to none as well, and we could see him on another level and possibly increase the gap that he's had to everyone for the majority of this race. So Joseph Logue is going to keep behind Rishan Jacobs for now in towards turn number 1. That's the smartest thing to do because he's going to get the run up in towards turn number 2. He's decided to use his ERS now, which I think is very smart. And even before the braking zone, Joseph Logue is like, you know what, I'm going to get past anyway. So Joseph Logue goes into the lead. Mirko Suriano gets past Matthew Older. We've seen them battle before on the PS side, but now they're battling on the PC side. So Mirko at the moment is on for a podium position here in PCF2, our championship leader. That's going to be good for his championship hopes because his main championship rivals, obviously Duncan not here tonight, Jack West is down in P5, and Thomas Gow is down in the 11th spot. So to be honest, he wouldn't mind being in P3 right now because consistency is key, but surely he wants to gain points off of Joseph Logue because Joseph Logue is the nearest challenger to Thomas, Duncan and Jack West right now.
He is, and I think now Joseph's got himself ahead. It's going to be very difficult for anyone to catch up. We know in the wet, Joseph is one of the best drivers on this grid, hands down. And the gap's already 7/10 to Rishan Jacobs. So that hold up there from Matthew was really ruined Rishan's chance of a win. The chance of a podium is pretty much still guaranteed because Mirko, he's dropping on some. He might have damage. It could be the fact his tyres aren't in a very optimum window, but he's dropping a lot of time. Back to Rishan, the gap's 1.9 seconds as we come through. As Jack West gets himself ahead of Matthew Older in towards turn 3. Matthew's going to try and hold it, but Max Wiesel now up the inside. Kanomi's round the outside. He goes for 2 of them in towards turn 3. He goes deep. That's ruined it for Max. He's going to make a bit of contact there with Jack West, who puts himself into the top 4. As we head down towards turn 4 now, it's Max Wiesel trying to charge after the Aston Martin. Jack was then in P10 about 10 laps ago. He's made this strategy work. He's put it a little bit earlier than others. This undercut has worked well because he's now 1.4 seconds back from his championship rival Mirko Suriano. Earlier on, they were 10 positions apart nearly, so now it's prime time for Jack to get himself within the Mirko's gap, get himself ahead of Mirko, and hopefully for him, try and catch up onto the back of Rishan and Joseph, but time is binding, and there isn't much time left for Jack to do so, so he's got to push on these next few laps. Tiger Hardy as well having a very decent race, trying to get himself into that top 6 position ahead of Matthew, and Matthew, even with his penalty, will still stay out, because now there's nothing for him to lose. He might as well just stay out and see what position he can get, but he will most likely, beaten up by the field, and possibly a puncture. We saw Bancho Bacconi with a puncture on his 17 lap old tyres. Matthew's going to take these another 6, so it will be around 20 laps for Matthew.
Well, if he could do it, fair enough, but he wasn't pushing as much earlier on in that stint compared to the other drivers, so that may mean that the puncher may come a bit later. It is a bit hit and miss, though, so he's got to be wary that he's battling with the drivers now. As oh, look at this. We've got Tiger Hardy on the right-hand side in towards turn number 3. He's got the fresher rubber, so surely it's going to be an easy move. It could be 3 abreast here as Sander Van Dijken almost cutting through the middle and trying almost for a double overtake. He's going to try and get the switchback out of all places. Almost touches Matthew Older down. And oh, look at Legend Rosenberger. He's going to catch all 2 of them through turn 5 and 6, and look at that. That was absolutely insane from Legend Rosenberg, and he's up into P7, caught down to Van Dijken and Matthew Older unawares, and I have to say that was absolutely fantastic driving from Legend.
Well, Jess, I don't know who Legend Rosenberger is again. You did it again at turn 5.
Did I?
We should change it. Should we just change his name next time?
I don't know why I keep saying it. I should have just called him Legend and that's it.
Fair. As we head down into turn 1.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep saying that. I really don't.
And well, this is Ellen Kivich on the back of Matthew Alder. And don't worry, Theon, we will be owed a pint when I meet him in real life. I'll just look at the chat there. Inspired by me.
Someone thinks that you should win.
Well, maybe I will. I'm not very fast, but maybe I will. You know, jump into the car last minute.
Me.
Well, maybe not. I can't say yes or no to that.
Well, anyway, I think we've got Matthew Older that's been under pressure by Thomas Gow into turn 4.
Yep, as Matthew still trying to defend on these 14-lap-old tyres as we go into turn 6, and there we are. Thomas got up the inside, very close to contact. As we go through, Matthew, considering his tyres are a little bit older, he's holding up quite well to this pack. He's just unfortunately losing many positions. He's in P11, he won't score points, so there's literally no point in pitting now. So we might as well just stay out As back to the well, we're not going to look at the front because there's nothing going on. We'll look at P5 and P4. This is between Max and Jack, who are doing very good in their races. Max making a bit of an undercut along with Jack compared to the top 3. And the gap between Joseph and Rishan is 3 seconds. So now it's pretty much done deal for Joseph. And the same can go for Rishan with his P2 unless any of them make a mistake. As we head up in towards turn 3, and that's Matthew Alder again having a little battle. This time it's with Andrei Tarabukin, flies with the penalty. He's done in 18th. Very poor race for him so far. As now we can see Andrei pushes Matthew a little bit wide into turn 3. They make it at the exit quite fine as they head down in toward that 4th corner. And no way for Matthew to get himself ahead, but actually he might try and ring it around the outside into turn 4. He will try. Not close enough this time around. He has to concede that position to Andrei Tarabukin now. We've got on the back Yannick Schmidt, 3/10 back, who's himself also not had a very good race either. Sitting down in P13, going to look to take a P12 away from Matthew Alder, who you've got to be careful soon. Could end up having a puncture, because that's what we saw with Ben Sabakonyi on his 17 lap old tyres. So that's very much in the possibility for Bence, as that's Yannick Schmidt up the inside of Matthew in towards turn 9, puts himself into P12. Back to the front, Jack West, yet again under pressure from Max Wiesel and Tycho Hardy as well, doing pretty well. Just he hasn't been involved in much. He's just kind of sat where he is and just brought himself along, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's brought himself along with other people as well. Other people were pitting, and obviously the undercut worked very well for Jack West because he's been on those tyres, I think, a few laps older than everybody else, so that's helped him a little bit there too. But I think he realises that Max Wiesel is faster around this track compared to him too. But even though Jack West is a reserve, he's still part of this championship fight more than anyone else. So he's going to do everything he can to hold on to that. And I don't think he's going to get a podium, but P4 I think will be huge for his championship chances because he's not going to lose too much to Mirko Soriano because of that. Because if Jack West loses positions, he's going to lose more positions to our championship leader. So he's going to fight for this and obviously try and keep it as clean as it possibly can. There's no sign of the rain drying up anytime soon, so they've got to get used to these wet conditions as Joseph Logue about to start lap 34 of 36 and literally driving into the sunset pretty much in this race, and pretty much the top 2 have been driving into the sunset as well. I think they'll be doing a really good job as well, and great race from Tycho Hardy as well, who's usually in the back, and he's in 6th place, so he's going to get some decent points after today.
Yeah, well, I think everyone in that top 10 has done a great job, especially like Tamash, who had an incident on lap 1. He was about 2 seconds back in turn 6, and he's already put himself back into the top 10 to at least try and take a point in this race. And I was just looking in the chat, and Mr. Will Gibson, I think you're the last person who can tell me I like McDonald's, don't you? I know exactly what you're doing, and I wouldn't be surprised if you change your image on the lobby to insult me, because that is normally what Will Gibson likes to do. As I've been watching the chat very closely over the past few minutes, and it's quite busy.
It is quite busy, not gonna lie. Thank you for those of you that are watching in the chat. Make sure you do leave us a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. But if you're not subscribed, you probably wouldn't be chatting. So thank you to all of those who are chatting and are subscribing. So there we go. We're on lap 35 of 36. The closest battle on track is between Max Wiesel and Jack West again. Now I think he is slowly edging in on Jack West for the final few laps. Let's look at Jack's ERS. It's around about 20% less than Max Wiesel, but it's still a decent amount. The red flashing light is not that he's running out of ERS. It means that it's raining quite hard at the moment as Matthew Alder has gone into the pits. I wonder if he had a puncture because I didn't see it.
Nor me. I didn't even realise he pitted, but he's in the pits. He's actually heading out the pits as we speak. As this is the only realistic battle between Jack and Max, and I think this could go into the final lap. If Max has got more ERS than Jack, that could help him, especially in that first sector and down in towards turn 4 as well. So that could be a very interesting battle. The top 3 are pretty much not going to change position unless one of them makes a grave mistake and ends up pinning it into the wall. So they're pretty much confirmed. Looking further down, Legend Rosenberg on the back of his teammate of Tycho Hardy. And then sitting right behind him is Xander Van Dyken, who obviously took pole in the first race and since then hasn't really had much luck at all in any of the races, all qualifying sessions this season. So Zankiewicz is second back from Xander, then Tamas Gal sitting right behind. Actually, this could be an interesting battle between these two. It seems Zankiewicz and Tamas Gal. But Jess, finally, we're on the final lap of the race. And, well, I think it's pretty easy to say who we think is going to win.
Yes, but who's going to get the final few positions as Tiger Hardy down the inside of Max Wiesel into turn number 1? But I think Max Wiesel is probably... Oh, Max Wiesel's struggling there. He's
he running out
dropped
of
quite a
fuel?
bit. I wonder
That's
what's
weird.
going on there. Oh, he's going to go for it. Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Well,
Wonder... What's happened there? That was very, very odd. But Xander Van Dyken gets past Tiger Hardy. Legend Rosenberg is up to 5th.
as we come
And I wonder
down,
if there's
someone
some
said
punches
incident.
going on. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll let you carry the final few moments of this race.
Well, we'll let them battle at the bottom. Back to Josie Floke, who's drove a pretty decent race. He's had nothing wrong at all. The strategy's worked well. The pace has been well, as usual, from Josie Floke in the wet weather as he comes out the final corner to take victory here in Austria by 5 seconds ahead of, hopefully, Rashan Jacobs as he comes through to take P2. A great race from him. No points so far until this podium here around 5. And then Mirko Soriano yet again with another podium this season. Takes P3. Jack West sitting right behind him, P4. Legend P5. Then Xander Van Dyken P6. Max Wiesel P7. Timi Zelenkiewicz in the top 8. Tamas Gal 9th. Then Tiger Hardy after a penalty drops down to P10. And, well, we won't talk much about what happened with Matt, so I think it's pretty obvious what happened, which is a shame. As we look through the rest of the positions, Yannick Schmidt 11th, then we've got Jona Martins in 12th, Simon Komsky in 13th, Andrei Tarabuk in 14th, Camel 15th, Matthew Older will come home to somehow not take last after that interesting strategy, comes home 15th, Floris 16th, Camel will drop down a bit more, as Daniel comes home to take the final position in P17 with a puncture. There we are, and you can see him just trying to score it to the line and takes P18 in the race. So, surprisingly, Jess, we had no retirements at all.
In the wet conditions.
Yeah,
That
normally you
is
see
quite
one or two.
surprising. Usually we see loads around Austria in the wet conditions, so I think it shows that they can race around Austria very cleanly. I think some of them are being very tentative, but there's one driver that we know that can drive well in the wet, Joseph Lowe, and he's going to gain a bit from most of his championship rivals. How many points did he start with before tonight? I think it was 20?
23, I thought it was, or 20, one of the two.
Yeah,
But
it's
he
either
takes-
23 or 20. He started with one of them. He's going to get 16 points for the win. He's going to be around about on 35, 40 points.
Mhm.
And obviously Jack West is going to score a bit. I think Mirko Soriano is still going to get the championship lead, I think.
He will, he
It's
keeps
going to be
it.
quite close at the front.
Yeah, the gap between the top two will be 5 points. Or 6 points. I think Jack West will be outscored by 2. So yeah, it'll be 6 points between the top two. And then P3 is Duncan Hoffland. He hasn't scored points, so it'll mean Joseph Loke will take P3 in the championship. Tamas Gal will still be in P4, and I think that is P5. So and then I think that is pretty much any of the big changes that we got on the grid. But still, the final classification of the race is Joseph Loke with a victory, followed by Rishan and Mirko in the top 3. Then Jack West, Legend Rosenberg, Xander Van Dyken, Max Wiesel, Timi Zelenkiewicz, Tamas Gal, and finally in the top 10 it is Tycho Hardy. And hopefully, very shortly, we do get some interviews into the chat. That would be nice to hear from at least the top 3. So if you are on the stream or you're speaking with anyone who's listening to the stream, pop yourselves into the waiting room and hopefully we can drag you up very, very shortly to have a quick chat after that race, as we'll pop the interview screen on very quickly and then I can actually tab out of Discord so I can try and drag someone up. And we have someone in the waiting room, which is Josie Floke. Jess, would you like to commence the first interview, the interviews?
Yeah, I may as well. Joseph, can you hear us?
I sure can.
I have to say, Mr. Rainmaster, you are. Well done on your really dominant victory as well. The undercut was a bit worrying at times, but you managed to pull the gap quite a bit towards the end there. You must have been praying for Ray because that was absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, well, obviously, rain is always going to help me. It always has done. But yeah, like you say, the undercut was a bit of a risky one to do. But I think it was the right call in the end. We obviously dropped behind behind Rishan, but obviously got back up into the lead and pulled away with the tyre advantage. So yeah, I think overall really happy. The guys did a really good job with the strategy as well. So yeah, really happy with that.
Yes, and it's obviously you were only a reserve as well, but you pretty much raced in a lot of the races as well, because you never know if you were gonna race or not as well. How crucial was it to keep it out of track limits tonight? Because it is a track limit heavy track compared to like lots of other tracks, but not as much compared to Qatar. Were you treating it the same way, do you think?
Um, Austria's a bad track for me, to be honest. So when I saw rain, I was so happy. You know, even here, you know, I just struggle in the dry, especially in qualifying on this game, and yeah, even Austria. So you know, the rain really helped bring me back into play, and I think the lap I did in qualifying was, you know, it was pretty good, and it was enough to get me on the front, and then you know, the rain in the race, once I'd got into a rhythm, was the pace was quite strong.
Yes, and you're obviously fighting with Rishan and Mirko for quite a bit of the race as well, which was quite entertaining to say the least as well. And you're the first driver to take 2 wins this season, with everyone else just taking 1. So you're the first to break that trend. Is there another win coming? Obviously, we don't know what the rest of the calendar is. It's going to be announced tomorrow, but is there another win in the cards? Obviously, if you race again, of course.
Well, I don't see why not. Obviously, you know, the pace is there in the race. It's just I need to sort qualifying out. But I've had a couple of tricky rounds in terms of the in terms of the tracks. So, you know, at tracks that I'm more suited to and aren't so you know, luck based with curbs and stuff like that, that I think I should be a little bit stronger. A bit like what I was in Belgium.
Brilliant. That's all my questions. Do you have any questions, Richie?
No, but yet again, Joe, for another great race. So yeah, well done on that one, and hopefully we get to see you at the top again next week if you make an appearance, of course.
Thank you very much, Nathan.
So,
thanks, Jess, as well.
Thank
see you later. Have a good one.
See ya,
Right, so
bye-bye.
Jess, we've got quite a few in the interview, so we'll try and get through quickly. So Rishan, hello,
Hello.
and finally you can take a podium away.
Woo!
I've beyond words, to be honest. I was, mate. Just qualifying, getting P3. I feel like I could have honestly done a bit better, but it was tight for time. I had to go. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been a final run, and that's kind of how it all happens. I crossed the line with about 1 or 2 seconds left. And I was really tired. Managed to get the lap, stay just behind Miracle, and getting P3. I was hoping to be somewhere around there, which I felt that was really good, and really a performance I can finally be happy of. And first in, first thing I felt really good, but later since I really seemed to struggle with, a few problems on the tires, maybe a bit of just inexperience in the wet for me as well, because this is my first wet race on this game. So to be P2 and let's just see what happens, because I've heard some things, maybe reports. So I saw into turn 3 on, like, I think it was lap 3 or 4. They had an incident ahead of me, so who knows? It might be a pen, but let's just see what happens. I'm already happy enough with P2, and if it gets P1, they will be even better. So
Yeah, well done. Obviously, going into the season, into round 5 with no points. I think I saw, was it you on Twitter who had an issue with your wheel again this afternoon?
yeah, I did.
Well, it seems that
Aw.
the curse didn't happen in the race, which is a good thing. And you've had lots of unfortunate events in the race with incidents and issues with the wheel. So to take a P2 is something good. I'm not sure if we're allowed to announce the next track. I'm not going to, but maybe if you already know. Do you know where we are next time, Rishan?
Yeah, I do, but
Oh,
I'm
do
not
you
going to say it on
excited?
stream. I'll keep everyone posted. Well,
Give us a
everyone should be excited for next race, in my opinion, because I feel like it's an amazing track.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I heard you were
Are you
one of the few
actually
that
saying
enjoyed this
that?
track.
yeah, I do. But it's just amazing feeling to finally get a season kick started in this way. And I had the wheel issues this afternoon, but I have to thank Flores massively for helping me fix out these issues that I was having on my wheel. Yeah, he's probably the reason it didn't happen again in the race, and the reason that why we're now P2.
Yeah, well, thanks, Rishan, for joining us, and we hope to see you next time, and for hopefully another podium for you.
Hope to see you as well.
Right, see you later. Have a good one. And next we
Cheers.
have Mirko Soriano.
Hello, Mirko. It's the first time I've spoken to you since season 31. Congratulations on your podium. Not quite the win today, but plenty of points to take away from, obviously, Jack West, who finished behind you, and Duncan, who wasn't here tonight. So you must be pretty happy with that?
Actually, no. I'm pissed off a bit. If I'm being honest, I'm a bit bored of the driving standards again. Get completely pushed off into the free, but for no reason. And then I lost 2 places. Then my wet pace was not like that good, of course. Then we tried something to take the lead back, and I got the first pit stop. Then I didn't get. I did gain 1 place. Then I got overtook again. Then I got a broke wing for like half the race. Got this slide of touches to Matthew, and I broke the wing. I don't know why. I've seen worse. I've seen worse to not take damage, and I took damage, so I don't know. But I'm a bit bored of the moves here and there.
Yeah, I was wondering why you were losing a bit of time there as well. Talk us through, obviously, your start, because obviously you started in quite a decent position as well. At what point were you like, right, I just got to keep it conservative at that point?
I mean, the start was good. Then I noticed straight away they were fast on the straight because I think I had more wing than them. And then I just got pushed off in turn 3, so nothing I could have done. I don't know. Like I don't make contact with anyone. Like I don't have a report against me like months. I'm always getting like touched or pushed off. I'm getting a bit bored of that.
Fair enough. And obviously, since it was a wet race and a wet qualifying, you usually run low downforce in the dry. Did you have to compromise a bit of front wing in the wet just to keep it stable in the corners?
Yeah, I went up on the wings like 3 or 4 clicks because we didn't know if it was about to rain or in the race or not, because the temperature was the same basically to quali, and in the quali we were running on soft tire, so we didn't know. Just went up on the wing because it was slippery, so that's what I did.
Yeah, fair enough. Which helped you in some bits, but with a damaged wing, you probably struggled towards the end there. But still, a pretty decent result, even though you're not too happy about it. Do you have any more questions, Richie?
No, nothing from me apart from I can agree with Mirko in some sense with the driving standards. So hopefully they improve, and I think they will do over time. So we'll just have to see what happens. But Mirko, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you hopefully next time for round 6. So have a good one.
Yeah, thank you.
And we still have one more person, yes, which is Mr. Jack West. Jack, are you here? Can you hear us?
Yeah. Hello.
So welcome in. A nice race, P10 up towards P4. So quite eventful. But explain, going through the grid throughout the race, you obviously made about 6 or 7 positions throughout the whole race. Was it an easy one, or was it quite difficult for you?
I mean, starting P18 on the grid, it was, I was a bit worried. The qualifying was one of the weirdest ones I'd had. Like, it was pouring it down of rain, but it didn't really feel like it was raining, and it was weird. But then it all started drying up at the last 5 minutes of the session, and I just got a bit greedy at turn 1 and invalidated, so I started 18th. But to say this was my first time driving on this game, I think my pace was honestly really strong. I mean, I was one of the fastest from lights out really until the end, and then I made quite a lot of positions up in the first sort of stint, if you have you. But unfortunately, I got damage on lap 18, contact with Legend Rosenberg, and that kind of slowed down my progress. And I think if I hadn't got that, I probably could have got Mirko. But overall, if you go from P4 starting 18th, you can't really complain. And Mirko got 3rd as well, which minimizing the points that I've lost in the championship, honestly, I can't really complain with it.
Yeah, well, P18 to P4 with damage, and you say it was your first time on the wet, that is a great performance. And hopefully, if maybe you get another wet race, you could actually show us what you were, what you can do starting from where you should be in the top 5. So, yeah, very decent race. Qualifying, obviously, wasn't the strongest today. Normally, you're in the top 5. So, hopefully, next week should be much of an issue. Do you think it is a thing with the wet, or do you think maybe if you, maybe had the plan a little bit better, you could have probably got yourself up into the top 5?
I think it was more of the wet, and I mean, at the end of the session, I didn't really know the track conditions. I had one lap, and I kind of just pushed it too much, getting greedy, and yeah, I was confused really the whole session. The track didn't really, it felt weird, like it was chucking it down with rain, yet there was DRS, and the grip didn't even feel that bad. Like I don't know, it was definitely the weirdest qualifying session I've ever had, but like it's just a mistake I made, and it's things like this that are going to lose me the championship at the end of the day. So it's not a good thing, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad that my wet pace is really good. It has been on previous games, so hopefully if there is any wet races, I can capitalize on that rest of the season.
Yeah, and so we've got about 5 or 6 races left of the season, and I think about 6 or 7 points back from Mirko, so still quite a close championship fight. Do you think you can struggle drag it out to the end, or do you think there's any tracks that you think might make an appearance that could try and hamper that chance?
Well, there are a few that I don't really like, but I know the next one is one of my stronger ones. But I know it's also a very good track for Mirko as well. So it might not be an easy race, but I feel like in terms of pace, I've got the edge over Mirko. But like at the end of the day, it's you've got to perform in the races, and I mean I've made mistakes over the season, just small ones like in Bahrain that have costed me points, and now here again. So I need to cut out these mistakes. I want to win the championship.
Yeah, we know the next track as well can be quite difficult, especially when it comes into the racing. We see a lot of people make mistakes and invalidations, so that could also play a factor. But yeah, hopefully for you can make something work. Jess, have you got anything quickly for Jack?
No, not really. You seem to have answered all of them, but yeah, a really good race. Your race pace seemed to be on it after starting low on the grid, and hopefully if we see you next week, let's hope you can continue your form going into next week, but a better qualifying this time.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us, Jack, and we'll hopefully see you next week. So have a good one.
Yeah, thanks.
Right, so there we are, Jess. I'll say one of the longest interviews we've had this season. We've had 4 people in, which is very nice, all giving us very in-depth answers. Mirko not seeming too happy at all. Maybe in issues you couldn't understand, I don't know, because I didn't see everything that happened in that race. But regardless of that, it was a great race. Rishan, very happy with his P2. Jack, considering went from 18th to 4th, very happy with that. And also Joseph as well, with another win this season, he's second. He's showing good form to maybe, if he can keep it more consistent, try and take more wins and hopefully, for his sake, fight for the championship. So, yeah, another great race when it comes to the championship. 6 points going between the two into the next track. I don't think we should leak it just in case we shouldn't, because kind of seems like you should, but then all of a sudden it didn't seem very much of a clear thing. So we'll leave it. But Jess, the track, obviously know what it is. Is it something you're excited for?
Well, to not give too much away, it is a track that is quite hard for the drivers. They need to have a good qualifying, but again, they can do some overtakes in some parts of the track. Let's just say it's a track that has, I can say this, because there's loads of tracks with that characteristic. It has a track where it only has one DRS zone, so if you think about it, you got to line up your moves into the corners before that potentially as well in order to go for it. And you got to have that downforce as well to go through those tight sections. But the straights are absolutely quite massive on the power as well. So it's going to be tight next week, I think. Hopefully the driving standards will improve. Luckily, I think it was a bit cleaner than what we've seen in the last few weeks, luckily. But it's been a great race. Luckily, my PC didn't die, because I was a bit worried that it was going to die going into this. But luckily, it held on, and it was a nice first experience back on PC. Hopefully more in the future when my Thursdays become free again. But I am going to be busy the next few weeks. But thank you for letting me join, Richie. It's been good tonight.
It has been good. I think it's our first time actually commentating together properly. I know we've done a bit of work with Josh, but I think it's our first time on PSGL, so it's been a great one. And obviously, I hope Dan's having a good holiday. Chris, we hope you get better soon if you're watching. And yeah, it's been a great one, and yet again another great race in the championship, making the championship closer and more people being brought into it. Josie Floke now also a contender, along with still Duncan Hoffland, Rishan as well. If he can still perform like this in the next few races, even he could make himself a championship protagonist coming to the end of the season. So yeah, it's going to be a great one, definitely. So make sure to stick around for more. And Jess, information about PS. Do you want to notify everyone quickly about the next upcoming race?
It is around Austria, so if you want more Austria action, all the PS races are on Mondays with F2 at 7 p.m. with Evan and Moore, and the top tier with myself and James Head at 8 p.m. So you don't want to miss a close championship fight after a great guitar race last time out, and who knows, we may get some wet weather there as well. I hope not, because otherwise there'll be chaos. But 8 p.m. on Monday.
Yeah, well, in the qualifying it'll be great, but in the race definitely not. But yeah, also make sure to tune back in for PCF1 next Wednesday, and then obviously following that on the Thursday is all the PCTs yet again, where we kick off the 6th round, which either today or, well, I don't think it'll be today because it's half an hour, but it will be probably tomorrow. We'll release, I think, the second full half of the calendar. So even I'm excited for that. I know the next track, but after that I don't know. So it's going to be, yeah, very interesting. But that's all from me. Anything left from you quickly, Jess?
Well, I think, should we give one final plug to our sponsors?
Yes, GC Omega, obviously. Make sure if you do purchase any of their products, you go to PSGL code at the checkout to get 5% off, and I've butchered that completely. I've never had to say that before. Dan normally does that for me, all the sponsor work. But you can see that on our chairs, obviously given to us by GT Omega. Make sure to get yourself that discount code because it will help them, it helps us, and it generally helps everyone. It's always nice to help other people out. So yeah, that is pretty much everything from us, and we'll be back yet again next week. So have a good weekend, everyone. Have a good next week. And yeah, you'll see us yet again at 8 p.m. next Thursday. So have a good one and good night.
Desperately trying to hang on. He's got the inside. Oh, here he's through on the left-hand side. Hooks the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of quarters now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.